In this video, we will start off with a short overview of market structure, and then we will delve into monopolistic competition. So far, we have studied two different market structures on different ends of the competitive spectrum, perfect competition and monopoly. Many firms fall in between these extremes and either compete in a space that would be described as monopolistic competition or oligopoly. You will recall that perfect competition can be characterized by many firms producing an identical product. The fact that each firm is producing a product for which there are many other firms producing a perfect substitute makes it so that the price elasticity of demand for the firm's product is perfectly elastic. The firm can sell as much as it wants without having to lower its price, but if it raises its price even a small amount, it will no longer be able to sell anything. Easy entry and exit creates a competitive environment where each firm's economic profit is driven to zero in the long run. A firm that is a monopoly is the only producer of a product for which there are no close substitutes. High barriers to entry are the key reason why a monopoly is able to sustain profits in the long run. Monopolistic competition is a very competitive market structure. There are generally many firms competing, and entry and exit is relatively easy. The main difference between perfect competition and monopolistic competition is that in monopolistic competition, firms differentiate their products. Restaurants are an example of monopolistic competition. Restaurants differentiate not only in the food they serve, but also in how they serve the food, the ambience they create, their location, and along many other facets. We will see that product differentiation gives the monopolistically competitive firm some market power, so it is no longer a price taker. However, easy entry and exit drive profits to be zero in the long run. Oligopoly is a market structure where there's just a few firms competing. Commercial jet manufacturing would be an example of this. Boeing and Airbus are the two main competitors in the entire world. The automobile industry, steel manufacturing, and coal mining are other examples. High barriers to entry can enable firms to be able to sustain profits over the long run. Let's now go into more depth with monopolistic competition. One of the key defining characteristics of monopolistic competition is product differentiation. When you go shopping, you are generally surrounded by products produced in monopolistic competition. For instance, consider all the differentiation in the bread market, or the snack market, or the beverage market, or in service stations, or in restaurants, or in clothing. The product differentiation gives the monopolistically competitive firm some market power. Recall that a firm without market power can sell as much as it wants at the going market price. If it raises its price above the going market price, it will not be able to sell anything. Firms are price takers when they sell a product that is a perfect substitute to the product of many other firms. The firm with market power, on the other hand, must lower its price if it wants to sell more. If it raises its price by a small amount, it will likely lose some customers, but not all. This consumer behavior is described by a downward sloping demand curve for the firm's product. It is the fact that the firm's product is differentiated that gives the firm the control over price. If you think about your favorite restaurant, if they raise the price by 10%, would you still eat there? Probably. You might not go as frequently, and some customers may stop dining there altogether. The restaurant will likely lose some business, but not all of it. Since the demand curve for the firm's product slopes down, its marginal revenue will be less than price, like in a single price monopoly. Let's add the firm's cost curves to the diagram. Like firms in perfect competition and single price monopoly, the monopolistically competitive firm will choose an output to maximize profit by producing where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. It will then price along the demand curve. At the profit maximizing price and quantity, the firm is earning positive economic profit of $40. This is shown in the graph by the area of the orange rectangle. Positive economic profit implies that the firm is doing better than its next best alternative. This positive economic profit will attract entry. Imagine you own an Italian restaurant that has been very profitable. It is no surprise then when another Italian restaurant opens up near you. The restaurant is different than yours, but similar enough that you know some of your customers are likely to start eating at the new restaurant some of the time. How do we show graphically the loss in some customers? We show this by a decrease in demand. So in monopolistic competition, entry causes the incumbent firm's demand curve to shift to the left. As long as economic profit is positive, there will be entry into the market, and as long as we have entry, the demand curve continues to shift left. After the entry is complete, the economic profit is now zero. So in the long run, entry and exit drives economic profit to be zero. To try to increase economic profits above zero, the firm may try to increase the demand for its product through differentiation. Also, monopolistically competitive firms often engage in advertising to try to highlight product differentiation and increase demand. However, generally, any increase in profit will be followed by a response from competitors that undercuts the monopolistically competitive firm's profits. So in the long run, the firm will generally have zero economic profit. At this point, price will be equal to average cost. However, it is important to note that the firm is not producing where average cost is at its minimum, like the perfectly competitive firm, nor does price equal marginal cost. This graph shows a perfectly competitive firm in long-run competitive equilibrium. This is efficient because price equals marginal cost. Also, the perfectly competitive firm achieves minimum efficient scale because it is producing at the minimum of average cost. In the graph, you can see what makes this possible is that the demand for the firm's product is horizontal or perfectly elastic. The demand for the firm's product is perfectly elastic because there is no product differentiation in perfect competition. Every firm in the market is producing the exact same product as every other firm. Because of this lack of differentiation, you will not see a perfectly competitive firm advertise. If Farmer Ann advertises for her hard red wheat, she is advertising for every other farmer's hard red wheat. In monopolistic competition, the demand curve slopes down due to product differentiation. This creates a long-run equilibrium where price is greater than marginal cost, which is not efficient. It also creates a situation where the firm has excess capacity. This is because the firm is not producing at the point of minimum efficient scale. Minimum efficient scale is the least amount that must be produced to obtain the lowest possible average cost, which in this graph is 11 units of output. Excess capacity is the amount that the firm would have to expand output to achieve minimum efficient scale. Here, excess capacity is 5 because the firm would have to expand output from 6 to 11 units to achieve the lowest possible per unit costs. The fact that each firm in monopolistic competition has excess capacity implies that each firm is too small or is producing too little to achieve the lowest possible per unit costs. Imagine if the restaurant industry was perfectly competitive. This would imply that every firm was producing exactly the same product. The point of a perfectly competitive restaurant industry would be to simply produce calories at the lowest possible price. There'd be fewer firms and each firm would be larger and efficient. Even though a perfectly competitive market would get consumers their calories for cheap, this is not what we are looking for when we go out to eat. Rather, we want the variety of product differentiation that exists in the monopolistically competitive market. As firms compete in monopolistic competition, each firm tries to differentiate its product to be different from others. To the extent to which they're able to do this, their demand curve slopes down. There will be many more firms, each serving a relatively small niche, than would make sense for efficiency. However, this inefficiency is the price that consumers must pay for product differentiation. Let's practice a problem. Suppose that a monopolistically competitive firm faces the demand curve and cost curves as displayed in this graph. Suppose that at the profit-maximizing output, the firm's average cost of production is $60 per unit. What would you expect to see firms in this market do in the long run? Here you can see that the profit-maximizing price is $50, which is less than average cost. For this reason, the firm is earning negative economic profit. For this reason, we expect to see firms exit the market. As firms exit, the demand for the remaining firm's products will increase until each firm is earning zero economic profit.